In this video I'm going to show you how to use CreativeArt to Photoshop Action. So this is the photo that I'm going to use as an example for a demonstration of the action. And the way the action works is you open your photo, you just brush over your photo and just play the action, and this is the effect that the action creates. Okay, so as you can see, what the action does, it turns your photo into this artistic effect. It's going to create these paint fills all around the areas you have brushed, and it creates some overlay texture. It creates, as you can see, the action also has the text that is fully editable, and that means you can use your own text. You can change the font and make any other change to the text. Also, the action creates 10 preset color looks that you can choose from, and you can also, of course, combine it for creating even more. Okay, so I'm just gonna close these two windows. So when you open your photo, before you use the action, there are a few things that you should check to make sure the action is run without any errors. So the first thing that you should check is that your photo is a background layer, so it should be called a background and have this lock icon. So if you have something like this or anything else, just go to layer, new, and just choose a background from layer. Then click on this menu icon here and choose panel options from here, and just make sure you got the option add copy to copied layers and groups checked, and then go to image mode and just make sure your photo is in the RGB color mode, 8-bit channel, and just check the image size over here. So you should avoid using small resolution images, as for best results you should use photos that are around from 20 to 3500 pixels wide or high. Okay, so to load the action, go to Window, Actions, click on the menu icon here, Load Actions, and just choose the action that can be downloaded according to your Photoshop version. Okay, the action will appear in your Actions panel. And then to load the brushes, you can just hit B on your keyboard to select the brush tool. Right click anywhere inside the canvas and just click on this gear icon here and just choose load brushes. And now just choose the brush file that can be downloaded, click load, and the brush will appear in your brushes panel. And all you have to do more is to load the patterns. So you can choose the pattern stamp tool from here. You can then just click on this little arrow here on the gear icon, load patterns, and just choose the patterns file that can we download, click load, and there is one pattern and it will be added in here in your patterns panel. Okay, so now what you have to do is to just go to layer, new layer, to create a new layer, and just name it brush. This is a very important step, so you must write the brush exactly like this, all letters lowercase, because otherwise the action won't work. Just choose OK, and now you can choose any color here. Color is not matter. Pick a brush tool, and using a soft brush, just make some, just brush over your photo, right? And I've already done that before, so just gonna open my PSD file. Okay, here it is. So after you just make this brushed area, right? All you have to do is to just select the action here inside the folder and click play. The action needs a few minutes to complete, so I'm going to fasten the video here and get back as soon as the action is finished, and then I'm going to go throughout all the layers to show you how each layer works and how can you customize the effect to get most out of the effect. Okay, so the action here just finished, so I'm just gonna close the actions panel, and I'm going to expand this layers panel a little bit like this. Okay, so the first thing that you will probably want to do each time you run the action is to just quickly close down all these folders. And how can you quickly do that is just hold Ctrl and Alt buttons for PC or Command Option for a Mac, and while this folder is selected, and it will be automatically selected by the action, just click on this little arrow here, and that we're just gonna close all the folders. Okay, so the first layer we got here is the brush layer, and why I have this brush layer here is because the action is made so Every time you run the action, even if you use the same brushed area, you will get a unique result. So if you just delete this whole folder, play the action again, I will get a unique result. So this texture will always have some unique form, and it'll be differently arranged and deployed, right? Excuse me. So just gonna open the folder, and what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna hide all the layers and start customizing effect from the bottom. And why I'm going to hide all the layers is because that way it will be easier for you to see what each layer does and how it works. Alright, so these two layers are automatically hidden by the action, so I'm just gonna hide all these layers and start customizing for the bottom. Alright, so the first layer we got here is a background color, and when you double click on this little color box, you can change the color, right? And I usually use some very bright colors, but of course you can experiment. So I'm gonna set this one here, which is okay. And also this layer has a gradient overlay effect, so when you double click here, if I just hide this layer, you can see the difference. So it's just going to add radial gradient, right? So it's going to make the center of the photo brighter, and it's going to darken the edges around. Alright, and what you can do is you can change this opacity, right? So just gonna change to 100, and if you use some darker color, this effect will be much more visible. Okay, as you can see. So I'm just gonna choose this one, color, this setting. So just gonna go to the next layer. Here we got a background sketch layer, and as you can see, this layer has a layer mask here. So if I just hide the layer mask, just going to make details here more visible. So it's basically just make the around your brushed area, it makes the sketch less visible. Okay, if you want, you can just hide the layer mask. It's going to be visible. It's going to have the same visibility all over the photo. I'm just going to leave the layer mask, and you can here change the opacity. If the sketch is, if you would like to have this sketch effect darker, but your opacity is already set to 100, what you can do is to just press Ctrl or Command J to duplicate this layer, and then you can change the opacity of this layer to just the brightness, but it's going to make the layer darker, right? So the next layer we got here is the subject sketch. So this one here is just going to add a sketch effect somewhere here inside these around this brush area, right? So around the edges, and it has also the layer mask here, right? So this layer mask it makes this layer to it's visible only somewhere here, right? Around this brushed area. So if you just press Alt or Option on this layer mask, you can exactly see which areas this layer is visible, right? Wherever you have white color, this layer is visible, right? It is the same with this one here, right? So this one is actually just having inverted color layer mask, right? So this one is not visible somewhere inside a brush area. This one is just there visible, but this layer mask here, it doesn't have density set 100%. So if you set 100%, then it's going to completely remove removed inside the brush area, right? But if you set to 50%, it's just going to be 50% visible on those areas. What you can also do is you can select this layer here, not the layer mask, but the layer and the layer thumbnail, and you can just press B on your keyboard to select the brush tool. You can just select this brush over here and set foreground color to black, and you can draw the more edges if you like, right? The brush is made so it follows the direction. Alright, so as you can see, so you can add some more details, right? If the action couldn't recognize them, well, you can just add more details like this. Alright, and if you just had this layer mask, then the effect is going to be visible here as well. Okay, so you can always remove this effect by brushing black in this layer mask, or just using a user tool. Just gonna use a soft brush and just select the layer thumbnail here, and you can remove the areas that you have drawn. You can also add those sketch details on the separate layer, right? Uh, create a new layer here, and then you can here control the opacity, right? So, or you can draw with 100% opacity, and then later lower the opacity here in the layers. Right, so you can have separate layers. You can remove this layer without removing this one here. I'm just gonna hide this layer, not gonna use this time. Alright, and here we got a base painting and a details painting, and these folders, just gonna turn it on, as you can see, are fully layered. So each of these color fields is a separate layer, and these two groups, these two folders, are actually some kind of additional effect. So sometimes this effect, depending on your photo and your brushed area, basically for if you wish to use these two folders, you should have thicker this brush area. Alright, so don't brush too thinly, and but of course you can experiment. So these are some kind of additional effects. You can use them as well. I'm just gonna hide it. I'm just gonna use this one, the main painting. Okay, so just gonna open the folder, and as you can see, this effect is also layered, so it has 5 textures. Alright, and each of those textures has this color field layer above it. Alright, so what you can do is you can just turn it on, and then you can just double click on this color box, and then you can choose any color here. You can also use a color picker, so you just click and choose some color from your photo. Alright, I'm just gonna choose this one here, and after you turn on this color fill, it's going to fill this texture with a color, so details will not be visible there. So if you wish to keep the details visible, then you just change the blending mode here to color. Then it's going to keep the details, just gonna colorize those textures. Right, just gonna colorize the details, and I'm just gonna turn color on this one too. Just gonna double click here, and just gonna pick some color, this one here, and I'm gonna change the blending mode also to color to keep the details. Alright, just like that. I'm just gonna color this one here, so you can experiment, try to colorize some and see how it looks. And just gonna change also the blending mode, this one to color. Okay, and here we got a text layer, so when it just gonna turn it on, and this text layer is visible all over all of those textures. What you can do, you can just click and drag it and move it between the layer and the color field, so it's going to get this clipping mask uh, immediately. So now it's just visible over those textures. If I just move it over there, it's going to be visible over those textures, right? So you can just keep experimenting, move it, see how it looks. If you don't like, simply move it between some other layers. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it here. Also, this layer has a layer, text layer has a layer mask, so what you can do, you can remove the text on any area, right, by brushing with a black, just like this. And if you brush with a white, you're just gonna get it back on those areas where you have removed it. What you can also do, you can hold Alt or Option, duplicate this text layer and add additional text layer, right? And what I'm going to do, you're just gonna go to Window and choose a character here. So just gonna make some changes for with the text. You can, when you double click on the text layer here, you can type your own text, change the font, right, and make any other changes that you want. I'm just gonna increase the size here to 50, and it's a really huge text layer, so it may need a little bit time to make the changes. Okay, I'm just gonna increase the spacing between the lines. Okay, and I'm just gonna change the font. I'm just gonna type the font name here. It's a really huge text file. It's made so it covers the any photo. What you can do is you can also just double click here and then just remove some part of the text, right, to make it works faster. So you're just gonna remove all of these lines, just like that. And just gonna pick the font here. Whenever you put the arrow over some font, it's going to get rendered immediately, so it's the best to just move this bar over here or time the font name there. So I'm just gonna choose this font here, and then you're gonna change the color, so you're gonna click here. I'm gonna choose this one, and by default the opacity of the text there is set to 50, so you can just increase it if you like. I'm just gonna set it to something like, just drop it down, something like this. And what I'm going to do, just gonna select this layer mask, and you can remove the text with a soft brush, or what you like to do is to just choose some of those texture brushes and just click like that. Or also what you can do to make a smoother removing of the text, you can just set the opacity to something like this, and then when you click, just gonna remove it for 50%, so it depends how much time you click, it's going to remove it more. You can set foreground color to white and brush where you wish to add the text again. Okay, I'm gonna keep it like this. And what we got here is the real original photo brush weighted to the mask layer. So if you wish to, if some of important parts of your photos are not filled with these textures here, like these areas here, or any other, you can just select this layer mask, set foreground color to white, and wherever you brush, you're just gonna reveal your original photo, alright? And you can use a 100% opacity brush, like this. What I like to do is to also use some lower opacity like that. You can use square brackets on your keyboard to change the size of the brush. And just gonna brush a little bit over here where I wish to add the details. So you can add the details from the background as well, like this. Okay. And what you can also do is after you brush into this layer mask, you just move this layer below. Alright, so it's going to get blended with the other textures. Alright, or you can just keep it at the top. So I'm just gonna keep it at the top this time. And what you got here are the diagonal lines, and they're visible on over some areas of your photo. What you can do is you can brush wherever you want with a white color, and they're going to get visible there, like this. Alright, and also if you want, you can just fill this layer mask with a black. So you just press Shift and F5 and just fill with the foreground color, but set foreground color here to black. And then this layer is not going to be visible anywhere. And then you just brush with a white wherever on the areas where you wish to get visible. So just gonna do that. Just gonna fill it with a foreground color with a black color here, and pick some texture, for example this one, texture brush, and you set the foreground color here to white, and just click over the areas where you wish to make this layer visible, like this. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same with this one. So fill it with a black color and then brush with the white. Okay. And that's it. And there are also opacities set of 50, so you can increase it if you like. I'm gonna increase it to about something like this. I'm just gonna delete this one. Okay, like that. Maybe remove it a little bit over here. Okay. Next, what we got here are the color looks. So you got a 10 color looks that you can choose from. So all you have to do is to turn it on. See how it looks. If you don't like it, simply try with another until you find the one that goes the best with your photo. And how you combine a few color looks is you turn on one color look and turn on another, and then you just play with the opacities, right? You can, and that way you can combine even more color looks. So you can combine them and create some new color look. I'm just gonna use this one. I'm gonna lower the opacity a little bit. Like this. And here we got the overall contrast. So how you change the contrast is you just change the opacity, and for each layer that you customize by changing the opacity, you can either click on this arrow here and then move this pointer to change the opacity, or you can just click on the word opacity, just drag into the side. So as you can see, like this. And I'm just gonna increase the contrast. And the next what we got here is the overall saturation. So this layer is just gonna add both vibrancy and saturation. So you can just move these pointers, create different, change the vibrancy saturation, create different effects. I'm just gonna increase a little bit the saturation and add a little bit of the vibrance. The next what we got here is the overall brightness. So you can move these 5 pointers here to change the brightness of your photo. Right, so I'm just gonna fade the shadows a little bit with this layer, with these pointers, sorry, and I'm gonna increase the shadows a little bit over here. I'm just gonna increase the highlights, just like that. And now what we got here are the overall sharpening and the overlay texture. So if you haven't made any changes to the design, you can then just change the sharpening here, right? So as you change the opacity, you're changing the sharpening. But as I have made the changes, I have to make this layer again. So as you can see, when you zoom in, this layer has the edges that are those lines that are the edges that are giving the sharpening to a photo. But when you make any changes here, this layer needs to be updated as well. As you can see, it got the edges of the previous look of the text layer, right? So you just delete this layer. And then just select your top layer. Make sure this one layer is turned off, because otherwise you're just gonna sharpen this texture. So just select the top visible layer here, and just press Ctrl Alt Shift and D, or Command Option Shift and D for Mac to make a snapshot. Then press Ctrl or Command Shift U to desaturate the photo. Go to Filter, and you'll probably have the filter here. If not, just go to Other, High Pass, and just set radius 2 pixels. Choose OK, and just change the excuse me. And just change the blending mode to the hard light. Okay, and then you can turn on this texture. So this is the overall texture. You can change its opacity here. Just gonna keep it default, and just gonna keep the sharpening to 100%. So let's just quickly check the before and after. So this is the before. So I have brushed over there, and here's the after. Okay, so I hope you understood everything, but if you still need any help or you got any questions, feel free to contact me anytime via my Envato profile page. Thanks for watching.